Welcome everyone. Just before you share, let me 1 second, Ian. Let me welcome quickly the people, and we will start with you. I'm gonna see one more in Marcus is coming. So before we start, mm, let's let's quickly check who is here. So if you go at the top of your screen, you can see it in gallery view, where you see all these multiple screens. So please, everyone, turn on your camera so we get to see you and we can say hello to our old friends. So if you could please turn on your camera. Soren, good to see you. Paula, fantastic. Welcome. Who else I can see? Let's look into the camera, see who can recognize our friends. We're all together in this meeting. So Marcus, great Emma, John, Suraya, Suraida. Please turn on your camera. Kabir, Amir. So you can say hello, John. Welcome. My, you're gonna need a lot of coffee this week. Waking up and going to bed very late. Do you want to fix your camera a little bit, John, so we can see you? Fantastic. Good job. Who else I see? It's good to see old friends here. Jean-Pierre, fantastic. He helped us as a rapporteur. It's great. Fantastic. Well, welcome to this meeting. Krit just arrived, so I'm letting him in. Rohan, if you want to help me looking um, after the people that are waiting in the room. Before we start, let me use the opportunity to use technology. Welcome to this meeting. Normally, this is our Commission 7 most informal part of our annual meeting. After we have worked hard in our sessions, we have worked hard in the sessions, and hopefully we will report back with Rohan of the sessions, and you guys will give us also a little bit of feedback. So before we start the meeting, I'm gonna give you 4 minutes in breakout rooms to answer 2 questions. The first question is, how do you feel coming to this meeting? How do you feel about being here in our Commission 7 meeting? And the second question asks, what would be good to see happening in this summary meeting of our annual meeting? All right. So I'm gonna do it a little bit. It's gonna be random. You're gonna be put on a breakout room and say hello to the other peoples and tell them how you feel coming to this meeting and what would you like to get out of this meeting. Okay. See you in our breakout rooms. We go now. Go to your breakout rooms and say hello to the people. Kabir, we still have a few people going. Go to your breakout room. Krit, say hello.
Will those coming
Yes.
in now be?
Yes, I can see if they haven't been unassigned, and I can assign them. Suraida, go. Rafael Nunez, welcome. Go to your breakout room. Eva Maria is in. Fantastic. Marcus, if you could go to your.
Marcus, long time.
Let's see if we can ask him to start video.
For those just arriving, we are heading to breakout rooms to answer 2 questions. What do you want out of the? No, what were your 2 questions? What do you want out of this session?
How do you feel coming out of this session? Remember, we've been advised by psychologists. And what do you want out of this session? Kabir, can you hear us? Marcus?
Oh, there should be a, yeah, that's good. There should be
Suraya?
well, here's the problem.
Just send them all. I can send them, my friend.
Did you kick? They're coming back in through the other door.
No, they cannot.
It says to admit them, and they're in the waiting room again.
Did I?
They miss out.
Sorry.
Oh, they're back in.
They're back in. They're back in. Okay, let's do this question for us. So, how you feeling? How you feeling, Rohan? Coming to the meeting. How you feeling? Tired? Did you have a long day?
I just finished cooking. I just finished cooking dinner and cleaning up, and now I'm just hoping that by the time this finishes, the children are in bed. So I'm feeling pensive. But I've also it's also 7 o'clock here, so I've had a beer or two.
Yes,
which is legal.
Yes, of course. I also had a glass of wine before coming here. Pretty much the same. Hoping when I finish this meeting, everyone is in bed and I don't have to read any stories.
And what about you, Daniel? How are you feeling?
Same. Feeling good. I think we have done quite a bit of work in the annual meeting, so it's been good. It's been good. Everyone else want to tell us how they're feeling coming to this meeting?
Mic's on. Don't be shy.
Kabir hasn't connected the audio. You can. Neither Suraya.
Marcus, you there? Ava?
Marcus? No.
Not willing to unmute?
No. Do we have anyone on the waiting room?
Nope.
No. Okay. Perfect. So what do you want out of the meeting, Rohan, this meeting? What would be good to get out of it?
I would like to hear a general sense from different people, how they, how they've found, how many sessions they went to, how they found them, have they been useful or not? That's the whole experiment been worthwhile or something to do again if conditions are same in 2021, or was this a big palaver? Was it the timings and the way we interacted a bit too restricting? And also a little bit of a look forward to 2021 by the group.
Yes, good. Okay, should we give them a few more minutes?
I think you should bring him back now because I'm thinking of the time and we got those presenters to honor. How many, do we know how many of the 9 are here? Are they all here? I didn't count that many.
I count 7. I haven't seen Orhan. Is the only one I couldn't see, and I couldn't see Masaru, Kaidzu, but maybe you. No, sorry, Maria.
Here
we come. All right, welcome back.
Elif.
So what was the report? Who wants to share? What did they hear in the rooms? What they want out of the room? How they feeling coming to this meeting?
We just talked about COVID.
COVID. Yes.
Yeah. Something different. Very good. Very original very good. Group.
Exactly. We got an original group led by Ian. Good job. What else? What else did you hear? Welcome back. What did you hear in your groups? Who wants to share something? We just heard that there was a lot of conversations about COVID. Anything else?
Well, and just getting to know new faces.
Oh, great, John. Who was new to you in your breakout room?
Well, it was just myself and Sanne from Hekman from Cadastral. So, but it was nice to be able to get to know each other and find out, you know, our involvement within FIG and, you know, what aspects, you know, how we are all involved with the surveying profession.
Yes. Yes, good. Fantastic. Okay, if possible, please turn on your camera so we don't feel just talking to your name. We can see a face and we can interact better in this meeting. So if possible, that will be good if you can turn on your camera. Great. Now let's start with our agenda, which have two topics or two general topics. First topic, country reports. Second topic, we're gonna hear a little bit of what's going on in the working groups, and we'll do it through going through the different sessions. And we'll give the opportunity to Paula to tell us what's going on with fit for purpose. I'll tell you what happened with the PPPs and digital twin in the sessions that were presented, and then Rohan is going to give us a quick summary of was as a traditional summary. We're going to start calling it similar to the one he gave us when we were in Seoul in Korea, trying to wrap up the conference with a summary. So
3-word summary.
3-word summary. Last time took him 10 minutes, so I'm sure he can take to good use those 10 minutes. We're supposed to be here no more than 2 hours, and we'll try to keep it 2 hours. So, Ian, let's start. Welcome to the meeting, Ian.
Thank you, Daniel. And just tell me if things aren't working.
Everything looking good.
Okay, and you can hear me and you can also understand me, which is even more important. So your country report for Australia, I'm really, there's just 3 issues I want to talk about that you can see there quickly. And the first issue is probably one that's most relevant to land administration, because they're actually looking to develop an 3D cadastral survey data model and exchange, which will go across Australia and New Zealand, and that's being run by LINZ. The objectives, as you see, the biggest challenge that I can see it is that to manage the level of detail across all the jurisdictions, and the problem with that is really our history. And if you look at our history, Australia began as 6 fiercely independent colonies with rivalries that still exist today, and there's no more so than on the sporting field, particularly. So that's something that everything is different. The railways were one area which is a prime example of what federation wasn't prepared for, that the differences we had to overcome. So in 1917, the person wanting to travel from Brisbane to Perth, which is basically east to west, had to change the train 6 times. So you have these standards that exist between states that didn't match very well in a federation. And it's even worse in our survey and land titling, because each state has developed their systems with very little similarity in the detail. It's all Torrance title, but there was no consideration of national standards or outcomes. And so attempts at digitisation had to work with a considerable amount of difference between different jurisdictions, essentially different countries. And the detail, going into the detail, is the problem that they might face. It's something we've faced before. There was an earlier E-Plan project which tried to represent the content of the complete content of the various survey survey plan forms, and it basically meant that the national standard could only add the needs of each state to that standard. Everything was so different. So that was the lesson from that, is that too much detail can challenge that implementation and the outcomes, and even in what we'd like to call a mature cadastral system like Australia. So if we're looking at digital automation and implementation of the data model, the data collection is a critical component, which is challenged by the amount of data that is on a Torrens title plan, and that's dictated by the different regulations in different states. So that's part of the challenge. So if we look at the strategic data model outcomes, we just need to look at different solutions for local and strategic outcomes. And it's about achievable initial outcomes and acceptance and engagement by all stakeholders, because that's something that hasn't happened in the past, and which means we start looking back at fit for purpose. And in Michael Barry's presentation the other day, he talked about adhocracy, and I really like that. When you look at bushfires across Australia in the last summer, they were widespread and they were intense. We actually had severe drought prior to that, and you can see how much of New South Wales was actually burnt. And I just refer you to the New South Wales Fire Service website, which provided information on every fire that was on record. It showed the extent of the fires and links to warnings, those type of things. And that was updated every 10 minutes. So it really was a brilliant piece of spatial infrastructure for people who were interested, but more particularly people who were going to be severely affected or would have to leave their homes if a bushfire was nearby. If we come back to our Torrens title, we then look at the scenario where Torrens title is about placing monuments and finding them. That's really what it's based on. So I'll just refer to a little case study that I've been working on with a friend in a bushfire prone area. It's a big block of land up in the mountains in a pretty remote area that was affected by bushfire. And so what we did, we actually began with a desktop database of parcel fabric, because the parcel itself, this portion 78, didn't have all dimensions. So we had to build it by building all the parcels around it. And we started with a desktop model, and then we went out in the field, up in the mountains. And here's an example of an old peg that we found. And these are the monuments that are critical to our Torrens title system. So this wasn't affected by bushfire, and in true fit for purpose fashion, we just used a handheld GPS. So we're looking to get down to accuracies within the database of maybe a couple of meters, which when we started out were maybe 10, 15 meters away from the position. So what we went looking for are survey monuments that are noted on plans. So you see all around fence posts mentioned on plans, same with reference trees, which actually gives you a connection directly to the corner of a property. So we went looking for these, and this is what we found. And it's only fortunate that the fire was only recently gone through that we could find where the remains of the fence post was, because the fire had burnt down into the ground through the fence post, and remains of a reference tree, which doesn't provide a very good reference for in that state. So over the last 50 odd years, we've introduced more resilient survey monuments. A lot of them are used in urban areas, but also in rural areas where it's applicable. And if we go back to our job up in the bushfire area, in 1975, there was a surveyor came and did a survey of the road, and he found the actual fence post that was here. And to confirm and to further monument that particular corner, he actually buried a galvanized iron pipe. Now, we dug up that galvanized pipe, and it meant that the hole in the ground that we found here, we could be reasonably certain that was the corner of the property. So that's the real challenge that we are looking at when we're looking at the resilience of the cadaster. And what we're saying is that the resilience of the cadaster, as we move towards digitisation, in Torrens title, coordinates of survey monuments will be the foundation to provide that resilience for the future. So a quick one on COVID surveyors in Australia. As I mentioned before, the antagonism between the states has been heightened. All borders have been closed between states. They've had the army out, they've had the police to stop Victorians coming into New South Wales. But what it's meant, excuse me, for surveyors generally is that they started working from home at the earliest stage, but then as restrictions have been lifted, most states outside Victoria and New South Wales are okay. The worst case scenarios were in Victoria, where you can see some of the limitations on surveyors. They couldn't travel more than 5 kilometres without a permit. They couldn't start new jobs. And in New South Wales, I know of a company that sent their 2-man field parties out in separate vehicles. So that's the way that they had to respond to keep working. And there was plenty, there's been plenty of work around from that point of view. So Victoria is now down to single-figure daily infections, so restrictions are being lifted. So we'll have to be vigilant about COVID, but I think we've all recognised in many cases the way we work may have changed forever, and that's particularly relevant to surveyors. And if anyone's interested in the KML of this Kuma job that we're working on, just contact me through that email. And back to you, Daniel.
I am interested, and I would love to go with you to Kuma and check it out. So digital coordinates, the new monuments. Good job for Ian, showing us the way. Question for Ian about Australia. Have you heard much about your friends from the PPPs, both in New South Wales and Victoria? They might not be very happy since the volumes of transactions in the property market have been very low. Any news from them? Have you heard anything?
No, I think they try to be apolitical, so they don't say too much, and they're very, certainly the areas that we're dealing with in New South Wales with the land registry services, they tend to keep to themselves, and we just try to improve the processes that are happening to make the efficiencies in e-plan and these type of things and plan examination. So what their views are, they've just got to keep working.
Keep working. What can you report as Rohan from the academic sector in Australia?
You want a report of the academic sector in Australia, Daniel?
Yes.
Well, yeah. Last night you ran a poll, or yesterday, or whenever it was. It was last night in someone's time zone, and you ran a poll about the impact of COVID-19 on our profession, and that would have included academia. I can say that, and your poll showed that there was a real mixed response. There was positive, negative, and somewhere in between. Certainly in academia, there's been massive job losses and heavily hit in many of the areas of academia, but less so in probably surveying and mapping, because they're generally the students in those courses are generally local students, so it's less impacted by the international student market. But in general, bad year for academia in Australia. Directly impacted by COVID-19. Yeah.
No, of course. Thank you, Ian. Is there any other questions for our good friend of the commission, Ian Harper? True commitment. He always had to jump last night to moderate a session in a short notice.
Can I ask a question, Daniel?
Of course, great.
Yeah, Ian, thank you for your very impressive presentation. Maybe two short questions. The first one, what is, in your opinion, the future of land XML? Do we need new functionalities? Do we need more developments, or should we move to another standard maybe? And the other one, yeah, I'm sorry that we have to use those bushfires as a case. It was really terrible and it unbelievable what happened there. We did see it on television every evening. So I'm sorry to use it as a case, but you have two systems: the physical implementation of the cadastre in all those monuments, and the representation of those monuments in the coordinate system. And now I think your presentation demonstrated that you can reconstruct one if the other is not there. So then the question is, of course, are the coordinates sufficient, and could you live without monumentation at all? Maybe a little bit provocative question, but I'm curious to see your answer.
Thanks, Crit. As for land XML, as I indicated, it started in 2005 and it really hasn't progressed. Some states have adopted it as a means of capturing survey data, but it's certainly it doesn't have the 3D capacity. But the reality is that the land XML is a bit limited in the way it represents cadastral data. Whereas if you look at the true XML format, it's about flexibility, and that's where a different XML format could work accordingly. But I think land XML has been going for nearly 20 years, and I think there's a lot more, a lot of other options with regard to that InfraGML and all these buzzwords that I hear about, but I'll wait for someone's. And that's where it's going to be interesting that this cadastral data model that's being developed, that's going to be looking at all those options. So I'll probably reserve my judgment for that. But as for land XML, I think its future is limited, and certainly from a 3D point of view, it's uncertain. Yeah, the other point you make about reconstructing boundaries, Torrance title is about the nature of evidence, and the monuments that we find is the highest evidence. And if we can't find monuments, well, we have to look at other options. You might start looking at fences and occupations that a lot of other countries use, and even some states use. So it's a hierarchy of evidence, and there's no reason why coordinates can't fit into that particular hierarchy, because what this parcel fabric that we built, we've built that from all the original survey records and adjusted accordingly so that it's followed a survey process to get to the best possible location. And if that's the only information we've got, well, there's no one going to dispute it, so we'll adopt the coordinates. But don't tell too many old surveyors here in Australia, but it's just the nature of the evidence, and there's no reason why coordinates can't be part of that chain of evidence.
Today they are right at the bottom of the weight, isn't it?
Most of the time, yes.
Most of the time. Thank you, Ian. Let's move to the Netherlands. Sami Hekman, did I pronounce your name right?
Almost.
Sanne.
Sanne.
Oh my God.
It's okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I should have asked you during the preparation of the meeting.
I got it. Okay. Yes, you see the screen?
Good.
Yes. Thank you, Daniel and Rohan, for hosting. So my name is Sanne Hekman, and I'm an advisor for the key register Cadastral. And this is my first FIG meeting. And so I heard from John, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So good night, good morning, or good day to wherever you are. And I'm super excited to give you our country report for the Netherlands. Our mission is, as an independent party, to offer security through transparency about ownership and the use of real estate and space. And this, of course, forms an important basis for the economy and prosperity for everyone. And we contribute to that every day. We show who owns what and help with making choices in the Netherlands, but also abroad. And 2020 should have been the renovation year of our offices, but we didn't really get to enjoy it long, because in March 2020, we went from 1 head office and 5 local offices to almost 2,000 home offices. And in Dutch, we say they can't get us off the map, which really translates to we didn't let COVID get the best of us. And with the arrival of COVID, the legal certainty landscape in the Netherlands also changed a bit, because, for example, the seller, the buyer, and the notary couldn't be in the same room because we had to keep a distance, of course. So an emergency law was passed in April so that real estate transactions could proceed at all time. And the emergency law makes it possible to draw up deeds at the notary by electronic means of communication. So in this way, we can work together safely and remote. And until now, there has actually been no decrease in number of deeds. And data also does not give any reasons to conclude that the coronavirus affected the willingness to buy, at least in the Netherlands. So the Dutch housing market has been overheated for a number of years, and there is still a shortage of homes. And the whole buying a house or a piece of land process is a digital chain in the Netherlands. So the real estate agent checks with the cadastre who owns what, and the bank uses the cadastre information to check the parcel before giving out the loan. The appraisers use cadastral information to value the property. And of course, the buyer and seller meet at the notary, and the notary uses again cadastral information to check the parcel, the ownership, and the legal rights on the property. The deed is then sent digitally to the cadastre, and the notary also receives digitally a confirmation that the key register is updated with the new information. So since all of this is digital, we could continue to work from on our mission from our almost 2,000 home offices in the Netherlands. And what did we work on? Cadastre has formulated 9 focal points. So for example, we worked on bringing the data in our key register cadastre as close as possible to the current legal reality. We worked on more information in 3D, worked on geo-information platforms with linked data and APIs. And also, of course, all this use of data requires insight into the quality of this data. So we also focused on that. And of course, we are working on the FIG Working Week 2021 in the Netherlands. And since I only have about 8 or 10 minutes, I cannot explain everything to you. So I would like to highlight 2 points that we worked on. The key register cadastre as part of the system of base registers in the Netherlands, and our new system to make public law restrictions known. Oh, too fast. So let's start with the key register cadastre as part of the system of base registers in the Netherlands. There are 10 base registers in the Netherlands, and these key registers have been officially instated by the government as the mandatory data registration source for all governmental institutions. And this way, the citizens' privacy is guaranteed. And this is what it looks like, and you don't have to remember all of it, because hopefully you can download it in a copy in PDF later. So in the Netherlands, we do not only have a key register cadastre, we also have key registries for persons, addresses, and buildings. We have the trade register, vehicles, income, the valuation of immovable property, subsoil, and also, of course, topography and large-scale topography. And cadastre registers and provides information about the key register cadastre, the topography, and the large-scale topography. Now, we have working interconnections with the trade register, the key register addresses and buildings, and the key register persons. And we measure the completeness of those connections, and we are investigating the quality of those connections, because of course it can tell us something about the quality of our own registers. And this is how it works. All the deeds are published in the public register and are the source for our key register cadastre. And when a deed is registered, we afterwards make a connection with the key register persons or the trade register, depending on what parties are the buyers and the sellers. And we connect to the key register buildings and addresses for the object. So why do we spend so much time on connecting with other registers? Well, firstly, because we have to. The government decided that citizens and companies should only have to submit their data once, and it equally leads to the government only having to process this data once. And all of the governments are obliged to make use of the key registers. So we agreed on standards that make our work more efficient, what leads to a better service for citizens and companies. Now, let's move on to positivation. Another way to bring the key register cadastre as close as possible to the current legal reality is to visualize the public law restrictions. And public law restrictions are restrictions imposed by the government. And these determine what you can or cannot do with a house, a building, or a piece of land. And of course, these restrictions are registered by cadastre. For example, your home is a protected monument, or your property is a protected living environment. Or you have the obligation to register contaminated soil. And we have been registering public law restrictions for quite a while, so that's not new, but we found the ultimate way of doing it. So before 2007, everything was still on paper. And after 2007, we went digital, but we used a dual system. So municipalities use a different system than, for example, water boards or provinces to make these public law restrictions known. And to maintain two systems is expensive. So the goal from the 1st of January 2021 on is to have all the data combined in one system where users, especially notaries and real estate agents, can consult all public law restrictions of all governments via one channel, including the underlying source document. And this considerably improves the awareness of these restrictions. So until this year, it was only possible to register on parcel level. So on this slide, you can see that there is a public restriction in the right down corner of parcel 2070. And for example, there's polluted soil, and it's registered on the whole parcel. But when you split the parcel, this happens. Because it's registered on the whole parcel, by splitting it, we will copy the restriction to all three new formed parcels, even though in reality, only 3001 and 3002 contain the polluted soil. So we had to fix that. So in a new situation, we are working towards registering the restriction using a contour. So instead of registering it on the whole parcel, that way, when the parcel gets split, only the new formed parcels that touch the contour will also get the restriction of the polluted soil. So in this case, you can see the free contour used for the contaminated soil. And now in the new situation, only parcel 3001 and 3002 are restricted. But it's still possible for municipalities, water boards, or for example, provinces to also register on parcel level or even on address or a building level to make sure public law restrictions are known. Oh, and I forget one. You can also use the contour of a physical surrounding. You can see some examples. For example, a bridge or a building, you can name a monument. Yeah, and then it's prohibited to be demolished, disrupt, destroyed, modify, because it's a monument. So from 2021 on, we will be more complete, more accurate, and the key register cadastre is better in line with the legal reality. Both the system of key registers and work on public law restriction contribute to the positivation and longer-term quality of the key register cadastre. We strive to bring the key register cadastre more into line with the legal reality. And with that, the Dutch cadastre is a stable base for information about real estate and the space around us in the Netherlands. The security that we offer is a base for a healthy economy, thanks to a fully digital real estate chain. Our mission and work did not change in 2020 with the arrival of COVID, and we will continue so on. Thanks for listening. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much. Questions for Sanne? I love the last photo, eh?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's like it's interesting. Yes. Now, so I was interested how quickly they. No, I remember previous presentations how hard it was to move into a digital format and so on. How quickly Parliament changed that. I mean, in a matter of months, 1 month and a half or something. Was it driven by the private notaries? What do you know?
Yeah,
Krit, what do you think too? Was it the private notaries, the one that said our business is coming down, help us?
yeah, it definitely came from the notaries, and of course there was the pressure of COVID. And we needed that law to make sure that the whole chain for the real estate continued during this this crisis.
Interesting. In Australia, the volumes of transactions, the property has decreased significantly. What other experiences? Is it? Can people tell us, perhaps in Japan, Mr. Kaidzu, is it the volumes of transactions in the property market going up or down? That's important for us in the surveying market. I don't know, or Virginia, in Indonesia. Dony, what's happening with the volumes of transactions? What people can report? Anyone? Feel free to just open your microphone and talk.
Okay, I do not have a complete statistic about this matter currently.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
In Portugal, it hasn't been affected. It's everything is going on as before.
Everything moving as before. Interesting. We're talking about the property market, volumes in the property market.
Maybe in Indonesia, I think right now we because of the pandemic, people cannot come to the office, and then some of our services changed to the electronic, and then I think still have a decrease in the services, but mostly is come to the electronic right now in Indonesia.
Electronic and volumes of transactions in VPN. What have you heard? Are they doing more transactions, less transactions? Pat, Dony?
I think it's a less transaction because in our activity for the services, depending. Last year, I think is about 75% decrease compared to the last year, I think.
Significant. Yes. Good. Any other questions?
I can say also for Croatia, there are no changes in property transfer market. It's similar as Portugal.
Stable. Yeah, it's different conditions, and I think cadastral surveyors we will depend on that market to be affected or not. So it's interesting to see how different it is. Good. So should we move on to the next presentation? Miodrag, would you like to share your screen?
Yes. Is screen here?
Yes.
Can you see?
We can see.
Okay, thank you. Hello to all. It's nice to see you here. I am coming from Croatia, and Professor Miodrag Roić, I will bring you something about the Croatian cadastre and land administration system. Originally, I am coming from University of Zagreb, Faculty of Geodesy. I'd like to thank organizers, FIG, the office, and Daniel for the organizing of this conference, and to give me opportunity to present some activities what is ongoing on land administration system in Croatia.
No, thank you, Miodrag, for your proposal to present.
First of all, I'd like to introduce you Croatia a little bit, cadastral background and history. We have a similar history like Austria. Since 1817, we have a Franciscan cadastre. There is finished in year 1883, and from that time is maintenance up to now. So at the beginning of the 20th century, we had for all of land parcels in Croatia, we had land cadastre and land book. It was 100% coverage, but it was analog data. In the meantime, through the 20th century, there was also renovations of these cadastral surveys. About 25% of the Croatian area was renovated, but because of the communistic social times, there was not a land book renewal. It was not important ownership. It was only important possession because of the land taxation. So in today times, we came with sometimes to say not homogeneous cadastre, and Croatia introduced in year 1999 a new name for the cadastre, but it was really a reform of the cadastre. Now we call cadastre real property cadastre. That means the all land cadastre parcels should be new measured or another process done and transferred to the new cadastre with better quality and legal security. In the meantime, there was a 20 or 30 years digitalization, and from year 2016, we have both registers, land cadastre and land book, and that what is done as a real property cadastre in a joint information system, as it's called. And from that time, we have fully electronic maintenance and dissemination of the cadastral and land book data in this system. But for us now, there are most important questions that are data issues. People don't really on the data in all situations. That can be not said generally for all, but there are some situations where the people are not sure if the registers are exactly saying situation in the field. About the stakeholders in Croatia, first of all, we have only 2 universities educating people doing business with cadastre and surveying. It's university in Zagreb and Split. We have non-governmental organizations. I'd like to mention only important. This is Croatian Geodetic Society. There is a FIG member association and working close to the FIG activities. In the private sector, we have companies that are organized in a chamber of chartered geodetic engineers. It's about more than 1,000 chartered geodetic engineers in our chamber. And from the state side, administrative side, we have state geodetic administration. The administration is responsible for cadastre. Municipal courts are responsible for the land book. And for other registers making a land administration system, there are also ministries, agencies, and so on. I'd like short introduce to you Croatian Geodetic Society. It's a FIG member association. Croatian Geodetic Society is most important non-governmental organization in Croatia dealing with surveying and geoinformatics. Society organizes activities for continual professional development. I'd like to mention congresses. There are every 4 years Croatian Congress on Cadastre. In 2018, it was 6th Congress, organized together with the 7th Land Administration Domain Model Workshop in Croatia. Normally, we have about 500 or more participants at these conferences. In another years, when it's not a Congress, we have some another conferences. For example, today and tomorrow, I am attending in Geo and Surveying Engineering conference, virtual conference today and tomorrow is held in Croatia. They are virtual, more than 500 participants. And there are also another events, social surveyors days, and the society is issuing a Geodetic list. There is a scientific journal for our profession in Croatia. Speaking about land administration system in Croatia, I will say the registers are important. They have authoritative data, and say we have a cadastre, land cadastre that is old, new will be done real property cadastre. On that data will be based land book. Adding to these 2 registers, address register is also important. We have also agricultural information system prescribed by European Union, land parcel information system in Croatia called ARCOD. There are also for special planning information system, and there are also some parts of utility cadastre, not full coverage, but they are existing also. There are also another register, but these are most important. And we are mostly occupied with data quality now, because our cadastral map is to 95% vectorized. It means it was graphical data. The data are not homogeneous. It was scaled 1 to 2,880, about 70% in scale 1 to 1,025%. And this real property cadastre surveyed, we have only 5% up to now. Cadastral register is not also homogeneous with the cadastral map. There are also errors. For the land book, the registration is not mandatory, and there are in the land book many registered parcels with social ownership that kind of ownership exists not more. This transformation is the biggest challenge in a land book. So to see how developed the spatial component of cadastre in Croatia, you can see here one map, so 80-20 may be done for one part of the area. About 100 years, this map is maintained and becomes unreadable. After that, there's made this a new copy, clear copy, and again, up to year 2000, was maintained, and again, unreadable and bad quality. And after that, that was massive vectorization. And now from this area, we have such picture or database in joint information system. This cadastral reform saying from 1999 that land cadastre should be transferred to the real property cadastre. There are 2 methods prescribed. First method is resurveys. It's by cadastral municipalities and sporadic upgrading parcel by parcels. Resurveys are time-consuming and relative expensive. So we have done in 20 years only 5% of our area. To have
two more minutes, Miodrag.
okay, I'm in time. We have all the data homogenized. There was after the vectorization, the picture was something like that. The homogenization help us to give a possibility to bring the data in our joint information system of Cadastral and Land Book. On that data, now there is founded special data infrastructure in Croatia. That means it's built a land information system called Cadastral Hire, and also all other services, land information services, use this data as a core database for other informations. And what is our future task, or what we are now dealing, is mass valuation, and we have no one system, and we have utility cadastre to finish. Public rights are not fully registered, and we are thinking about 3D special legal objects. Data models for sharing and integration we should improve, and also data quality improvement to reach a 4D land administration as we like to have today. And thank you for your attention. It's for me.
Thank you very much. Questions for Croatia?
Can I ask a question, Daniel?
Yes, please. Great.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your presentation, Miodrag. This was really a very nice overview. I enjoyed it, especially this quality dimension. I think that is an issue for many cadastrals worldwide, existing cadastrals, if they are there. So my question is, you have homogenization, you have resurveys, you have sporadic upgrading. So that means that for the same boundaries, you have different representations in the database. There can be maybe a representation from the graphical map. There can be a representation after resurvey or homogenization or sporadic upgrading. My question is, do you maintain different versions of the same boundary or maybe parcel in the database?
As it's maintenance different, but not too much. We have old graphical land cadastral coordinates that's vectorized or something like that. That is one coordinate, and the new coordinate is the real estate property cadastre. And it's not difference if it's a resurvey or sporadic or something like that. There are only two kind of coordinates, and it will once the new coordinate produced is for real property cadastre, it will not again produced through the sporadic upgrading or the something like that. It will be only controlled the position.
Yeah, but if you have new coordinates after resurveys,
yes,
do you throw away the old coordinates?
We have all coordinates in archive database, but new coordinates are official.
Okay.
User can see. Normally, user can see only a new coordinates, real property cadastre coordinates.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next presentation to make sure we finish on time. But Dony, welcome. Do you want to share your screen or?
Okay, Daniel. I will start to my presentation. Can you see?
Perfect.
Good afternoon, good morning, good night. So everybody, let me start with our presentation. Indonesia. We have one program to accelerate agrarian reform, one map project. This is the challenge and the opportunities. My presentation will be project description, target indicator, challenge, and opportunities. This is the midterm national development plan for the Ministry of Land Affairs and Spatial Planning. In 2020, we have quality enhancement, and 2021 and 2022 is electronic services. We have a positive TESOL in 2023 because we have a complete for the administration legislation. And the 2024, we have become the world standard for the land services. Right now, we have a PTSL volume in 2020. We targeted at the first, we targeted at 10 million. But because of the pandemic, the budget will be cut, and then we in our 2020 we targeted only 7 million, and we have a work quality enhancement for the project and the UDB. Each of the business in Jakarta and Surabaya City. This is the project from the block bank. We have 200 million loan from the World Bank, and the disbursement is about 28.9 million US dollar, and the actual expenditure is 8.4. And then this is the detail of component of our project. The first is participatory mapping. The second is geospatial data infrastructure for environment and natural resource management. This is about the PIG, the geospatial infrastructure agency, and the other is for the project management, institutional development, and monitoring. This is the project monitoring unit. The allocation is the component one is about 162. The component 2 is 10 million, and the component 3 is 28. This is the program structure. We have the participatory mapping and agrarian reform. Produce map of land parcel and facilitating the development of land rights with the land estimation system (LN), and clarify forest area boundaries. In component 2, we have the improve access and availability of geospatial information and improve environmental and natural resource management. Component 3 is project management, institutional development, and monitoring. This is our 7 provinces of the targeted area. The whole of Kalimantan area is Kalimantan, South Kalimantan, Central Kalimantan, and West Kalimantan, and 3 provinces in Riau, Jambi, and South Sumatra. This province is chosen because there is adjacent to the forest boundary. So the Kalimantan, I think the most area with the forest area, and the South Sumatra, Jambi and Riau is peatland and also in the forest area. In our value for the project is number 1 is participatory, involving the community, and inclusive because involving the community. Empowerment because we use pool data. Pool data is a community that participate to collect the juridical and parcel map. And the other one is environmental study and social aspect, and there is a gender mainstream because all of the project World Bank will be gender mainstream. There is a safeguard for this project for the environmental and social management framework. We have a social management, law protection, management, and communication. And then this is our parcel target. In 2019, we have a pilot project targeted about 50 million and 50,000, and we already completed it 45,000, and the phase 2 we targeted in 2019 and finished in early 2020. We targeted at 350,000, plus we only fulfill with 300,000. And in the August, we already contracted about 1.3 million. And we will also procurement for the next phase in 2021. We procure in November about 1.6 million parcel for the phase 4. Total, we will targeted about 4.3 million, maybe more, because I think we have several budget left from the loan. This is the project development objective. The number 1 is our objective in the participatory mapping and agrarian reform. There are share of project target area, number of ATR BPN office target area with upgrade active and technical infrastructure, number of ATR BPN office operating e-land system, and availability of electronic land information and geospatial services. Number 2 is geospatial data infrastructure in geospatial information agency. Share of target area with accessible map data and participatory map public accessibility with NSDI and Inageo portal, and NSDI data center and Inageo portal solution modernized site, and coverage of project target province with adequate and accessible. Number 3 is project management institution and development and monitoring. There are the target for the public awareness, environmental and social vulnerability mapping, number of agency with social monitoring report, and analytical studies prepared by the project, and people trained by the project, and non-governmental beneficiary from the training. The challenge is about availability of base map in the target location, in form of full data, the physical and juridical data land collector, community devastation or participatory process, introduction of safeguard in land acquisition because the potential disaster, biodiversity area, and low disbursement in first 2 years is become our challenge because this is the project will be last until 2020. And complex procurement, until now we have 103 procurement package by 20 September of 2020, and COVID-19, because COVID-19 sometimes the surveyor cannot go to the village because the village will be restricted from the activity of the field. The opportunities is we already have pilot project for support agrarian reform, both food and for asset and legalization and land distribution, support forest boundary demarcation, support digital transformation toward electronic services with the transformation digital project with Pak Dela, and strengthen NSDI data center and Inageo portal PIG. And we have a potential activity with 3D data XYZ, and we have an indicative village boundary mapping on or delineation of forest boundary and update actual land use map. And we have a participatory process by involving full data. I think that is our presentation. Can have a question for answer.
Thank you very much, Pak Dony. Excellent questions. We heard yesterday during the PPP session about the land PPP. What's the integration of that PPP with your project, Dony?
One of our subcomponent is a digital information system. So this is Pak Dela is one of the activity is for the PMO project. We use the budget from the loan. So the PMO and
to support them.
Yeah, administration project we use from the loan, and the PPP will be conducted by the PMO that Pak Dela will be chair. I think that.
Very good. Any other questions?
Yes,
Great. Yes, I can see you.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. Well, maybe one question from my side about this participatory approach. How is this, Dony? How is this accepted by the professionals? Let's say by the professional surveyors, and which is their role in this process? Does it work with, let's say, participatory approaches combined with professional approaches?
I think the surveyor in here usually in our traditional project with the national budget, not from the loan, then the surveyor is only take the physical data, not the juridical data. So if we give the full data, the surveyor can then combine the two of them in during survey. So they I think that they will be helpful by full data, I think, because they collect the information more quickly and effectively, I think.
Yeah, I think you've been modest, Dony. I think the private surveyors love the project. I mean, it's a lot of work for you doing all those procurement for them, all those tenders and so on. But I think definitely has dynamized the market when we talk to the private surveyors. Great, you might remember they actually invest these resources pretty much. There's a significant role by them. It's a fit for purpose in where it fits both the market of the surveyors and the people, because the surveyors at the end, the one collecting the data, but gets the community to help them through participatory mapping.
Yes.
You mentioned
that is really an issue, because let's say if you use this fit for purpose approach, you can create a nationwide coverage, and that's good for the business of surveyors, I would say, because all those data have to be maintained and to be kept up to date.
Yes. I mean, I think Indonesia has to be one up there with the champions on being able to quickly deploy systems to be able to secure tenure, or at least provide some sort of documentation. So, but you mentioned something about forest boundaries, Pat Dony. How's that going? Big controversial topic in Indonesia. Is it has you guys been able to move into the forest boundaries and village boundaries? How's that going?
I think it's more difficult, because the boundary in our country is arbitrary, and then if the community go to the forest, they don't know if their land is inside the forest area or not. That become a problem, because they said that it's not a forest area. Why we don't get a registration process, and we cannot sure that the physical boundary is on the field. That is our problem.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Let's move to our next presenter from Japan, Masaru Kaidzu. Welcome. Would you like to share your screen, please? And you have 10 minutes to tell us what's happening in Japan. We can see it now. Good job.
Okay, hello everyone. Now, my presentation is just a very conventional status report. Historically, you had many times of a cadastral survey. The latest one occurred about 1.5 centuries ago. And actually, this is the original register. And every time we go to the field, we must come back to this boundary. And as usual, this is a Hekman matter. Present progress as of March 2020, it means the end of last fiscal year, is still 53%. As I said just now, we have a record already, but it's more than 1.5 centuries ago. The maps are just maps, and coordinates are not very well coordinated. And especially in the forest area, the map itself is not in very good quality. So we started this survey about 70 years ago, and still we are pushing on it. Well, to promote the project, Japanese government make some measure. One is to application of Article 19 Code 5 of National Land Survey Law. It means we use survey result of a project other than cadastral survey after check of quality, and a few fundamental surveys are done by government rather than the municipality. Among them, I'd like to introduce two of the projects. By the way, this is the position of fundamental survey. Fundamental surveys support not only cadastral survey, but water survey and land classification survey. The fundamental survey of boundaries in disaster treatment area. This is a typical cluster deformation associated with the large earthquake. This is actually a Kumamoto earthquake, 2960. Well, this is a conceptual map. These are each station, including continuous observation of the GPS. It may move like this, and because these are quite sparse, we use the wide area data to interpolate the deformation onto the grid point. Once these grid points are provided, the municipalities can recover the present boundary even after the deformation, and sometimes things are lost due to the landslide and so forth. Then we can recover this boundary, and we can carry out the construction work to recover. Okay. So this is quite helpful, and later we can carry on this survey based on this survey. The other is a fundamental survey of boundaries in mountain villages. Just like Indonesian plan said, inside mountain villages, it is rather difficult to find the proper boundary. Actually, the senior people know very well because they work in the forest. But nowadays, the youngsters tend to work in cities. So those people working in the forest getting old and old. So while senior people who know the forest very well, and while they are still available, important landmarks and reliable reference such as a tree, so-called boundary tree, or say pathway, shrine, or dam, those things are to be checked and coordinated. And if those things are well documented, then we can derive those information to carry on the cadastral survey inside the mountain village. The upper pictures, the upper left picture shows the just a yellow photo of some region. You can see the species are different or height of things are different. So using this kind of information, we can roughly recover the boundaries of parcel. But to fix those things and those owners agree or confirm this boundary, we do need such concrete references. So the senior people go around and show where the such important marks are. Well, this is the other example of fundamental chart. Now, this year, the government started the 7th 10-year promotion plan for cadastral survey. First 10 years plan started in 1963, very old, but the progress is not yet very high. So this year, they start 7th plan to promote. In this plan, there are some measures to push the progress. If evidence is clear and owners agree, we can skip confirmation on site with presence of owners. In case of mountain villages, we can use aerophoto or similar remote sensing data as reference data to make such a what do you say, fundamental survey, and use taxation record to find owners. This sounds awkward, but in Japan, registration is not compulsory. So in cities, it's okay. In rural areas, still maybe okay, but in very rural or mountainous area, in case of the inheritance, they forget to register, and then possible owners increase generation by generation. But the taxation is going, so the actually municipal office got some information that who is paying the tax. So now we can use this taxation record to find the owners. So in such a way, we are going to promote the progress of the resurvey of cadastre. And this is the last slide. effect of COVID-19, official statistics for this fiscal year is not yet available. But in spring, due to COVID-19, a community explanation session was either postponed or changed to distribute the pamphlets, or opened many times with small number of residents can come, and not many. For example, Bando City opened a drop-in explanation corner for 1 week to avoid congestion, and still explanation reaches to community. So actually municipalities do their best effort to protect residents and proceed. Measures taken differs from region to region according to infection rate or prefecture policy and so forth. So the situation is different. And the owner's presence on site for confirmation before survey to enter the area is temporarily suspended in case of municipality sensitive to COVID-19. So I believe that the progress will be slightly slower than usual this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here you go, Ian. 3 species as an option to identify post-disaster boundaries. How interesting. Questions for Kaidzu in Japan?
Can I ask a question, Daniel?
Please, Paula.
It's a question in relation to this last slide, but actually also a question to all presenters. We see in also from Indonesia the impact of COVID and how it affects our work, our daily work, and we are using different ways of working. And I was wondering, what are the positive returns of changing our ways of working? Are we surprised by the different outcomes that it brings that we can use post-COVID? So it's a more an open question where I'm curious about what are kind of new opportunities that occur due to our different ways of working. And especially what you explained in this presentation was, for instance, you opened the office for 1 week. Had that brought new insights, for instance, and that it could be, okay, that could be worthwhile also for the future?
Positive.
At least in Japan, the presence of owners quite important. So we cannot just simply skip this presence. And to carry out the presence, we need an explanation session. So luckily this time, some of the municipalities found a way to, for example, open belong for 1 week drop-in office, or just first distribute pamphlet and then later explain. And those things are a little bit tedious job, but it is good for landowners because they can select their time to get information. So it will not choke up the vision for this only cadastral survey itself. So this is one thing very positive.
Good. Ian, you bought a power boat. That was a positive, isn't it?
It nice. Well, in Australia, I think there's just been a huge awareness that people don't necessarily need to go into the office every day. I have a friend who is a real estate agent up on the north coast of New South Wales, and he said he is being inundated by people from Sydney who realise they can move up to the north coast, live on the beach, live in a wonderful lifestyle, and maybe travel to the office 2 or 3 days a week. So it's really opened up people's minds to you know, just what use is the office, and the fact that we have these virtual meetings, it's pretty effective. And I think what people are wearing below their good shirts doesn't need to know, but you know, everyone, it's a different attitude towards existing workplace practices.
Definitely. Great. Let me move to Virginia. Last presentation before we hear from Rohan and his summary. We're targeting to finish in the next half an hour. So please, Virginia, keep it short and sweet. Over to you. If you want to share your screen, please.
Are you all listening to me? Okay.
Yes.
I have news. I don't know if they are exciting yet, but you are going to take a look of what's going on in Portugal about Cadastral. Just a few facts. Portugal is in Europe and is considered the third most peaceful country in the world. So that's good because we don't have a lot of land dispute. I'm going to call your attention for these units, especially this one, North and Center, because I will refer to them later. And Portugal has 308 municipalities. I am going also to refer to them later. We have 2,882 parishes. But that's not very bad because before 2011, we had 4,050 parishes. The main actors in the cadastral in Portugal are the IRN, that is responsible for real estate registry, the Autoridade Tributária e Aduaneira, that belongs to tax, finances, metrics, and the DGT, that is responsible for the real estate cadastre. IRN is essentially notary and the legal rights of the land. Tax is to tax land, but they know what is going on in each land because the taxes you have to pay is according what you have. If you have trees, if you have cultures of some kind, you pay according to that. And the DGT is responsible for cadastre. For the moment, we have two kinds of cadastre: geometric cadastre of rustic property and real property cadastre. You can see that the geometric cadastre of rustic property is almost in the south of Portugal. It started in 1926, but the north of Portugal that don't have almost any kind of cadastre is the region where the biggest risk of fires exists. As I said, the rustic property started in 1926. It was replaced in 1925 by the real property cadastre, but it will continue to apply until it is formally renewed. By the moment, it covered 134 of the country's 308 municipalities. This is one chart of cadastre. That by the moment they are vectorizing it in order to preserve historic records and maintain updated existing data and improve information access. The real cadastre have been done according to synergic project. I'm going only to call your attention for the money involved because I am going to refer to it later. For example, you can see this one, I don't know if you see it cursor here, to lot 1 costed 6 million. And I know that in other countries it could be million, that's a difference, but to us it was 6 million euros plus VAT, just for 3 municipalities in the south of Portugal, in the region of Algarve. According to DGT, by September of this year, we could access into National System of Information VIR that they have already put 33 municipalities of geometric cadastre of rustic property online, and the 7 municipalities where the synergic project was held. There are also another kind of cadastre. We can say that it is from the initiative on municipalities, because it started as a DGT project, but there were very problems of communication with finance departments and then the registry office, so it stopped. Later, these municipalities took up themselves the responsibility for the cadastre, and they updated it and are using it with their GIS systems and with the form of communications with the finance department and land registry offices. We think that this is going to end. And why? Because you may think that you know Portugal. Some of you have been in Coimbra in 2016, but maybe you don't know that Portugal is Europe's largest producer of eucalyptus pulp. We talk, yes, Jan, you are smiling, because we talk today about eucalyptus and fires. We brought eucalyptus from Australia in the 18th century. It's a tree with big growth, but has problems due to fire hazards. So we are very good with paper, so we need the wood, lots of wood. Forests cover 38.9% of national territory. But as you can see, only 4% of which are managed by industrial companies. So the other 92% of forest is maintained somehow by the owners or not maintained at all. So what happened? We have every year forest fires. In 2017, it was particularly harsh. We lost for over 100 lives, including children. So people start to point someone responsible for what's going on. Everyone shouted to, it was cadastre, it was hazards like standards and something like that. But people said, okay, enough is enough. We are going to do something about it. So the Portuguese government enforced a major package that aimed to reestablish the previous condition and hopefully prevent future events. From these policies, I call your attention for 2. First, it is necessary to plan and implement a full management bands that we call faixas de gestão de combustíveis. And we have to do a simplified cadastral information system. It may be a blurry cadastre, but we have to know to who belongs those forests, those lands who have to be clean to don't have fires. So this property for the fuel management bands, the property owners need to clean the bush and cut down trees according to the law. If they don't do it, they may be subject to a fine. And if they don't do it, municipalities go and do it for them, and they charge them to reimburse the municipality for the amount spent on cleaning the lands. And this is the Republican National Guard is land controlling and surveying throughout the national territory and ordering people to clean the lands. So if you don't want to spend money cleaning the land, You have to sell it someone because you are going to be fined and or you are going to spend money cleaning your own land because people didn't do it. So maybe you don't know, and maybe in answer to the question of Daniel, Portugal didn't lose a lot of things with COVID because we are, for incredible that it seems, we are a high-tech country. We can do almost everything online. We can sign online. We have our, since someone born, it has an ID card with a chip, and they can sign everything. So it wasn't hard to us to work from home or from office because we can do almost everything online. The other measure of the government, it is the simplified cadastral information system. They started a project, a pilot project in 10 municipalities that I can show you in the map. The results were not too bad. What is this? This is a participatory cadastre, as we have heard before. People can go and participate their own parcels, but there is a but, always a but. If they don't do it, the state can take over the land. So people are obliged somehow to participate in the land because they can stay without it. And if they don't want it, okay, it stays without it. We can see, for example, we know that people say to their neighbors, you have to clean your land because of the fires. And people say, I give it to you. Because people don't care about the land. They are not in inner municipalities. They live in Lisbon and so on. And so they don't care about these parcels. So they can give it.
1 minute.
Okay, what's new? We have a single desk for land issues. It will be held one in each municipality. There are 308. You can participate by your own online, or you can go to one of these single desks and participate your land. First, it worked as these 10 municipalities, but in June 2019, Portugal said, okay, now it's going to be spread all over the country. By the moment, and that's why I called your attention for the money expended in just 3 municipalities in town. For the center of Portugal, we have 10 million euros to do the single cadastre, and for North the same. We have 24 months to do it, and we can apply for these funds till the end of this October, so everything will change next year. The National Cadastral Information System had to absorb this simplified cadastre, and the DGT had to do it. So in closing, Portugal has 58.9% of the territory with some type of land cadastre. It is estimated that more than 20% of the territory has no owner or is unknown, but I think that everything is going to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone has a quick question before we move to Rohan? And during Rohan's presentation, I'll ask Paula to also talk about fit for purpose. Paula, go ahead with your question.
Well, a quick remark, and really thank you, Virgínia, for interesting presentation and reflecting on the cases in Portugal. My question is if you would be open for an interview on fit for purpose land administration applications, because your example fits with a disaster context and where the legal framework that pushes for a change, and where you said we do a simplified data collection model.
Yes, yes, of course.
That would be very interesting to learn.
This can be a very cadastre, but the legal says that it is going to be a good cadastre. You know, this is the first approach, but we have to know something, you know? That's the problem. We don't know nothing.
Okay, thank you. We'll follow up on that.
Okay.
Thank you. Fantastic. All right.
Fantastic. I want to underline this. Thank you, Virginia.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you. That was great. More information for Ian, eh? Ian, interesting. Well, Australia has a lot of experience. As you guys brought the trees, well, Australia has the forest. Half of it is made up for burning, like as a natural process. So they have a lot of experience in that, and there's a lot of regulation, fire prompt regulations, mapping, and so on. So I won't be surprised that there's opportunities to exchange with Ian and Virginia, isn't it, Ian?
Yes, it's interesting to see. We have developments, particularly in rural zones. If you want to apply to build a house, you have to have a fire reduction area, a fire area similar to what you were showing, Virginia, where you've got to nominate the clearing of clearing of those eucalyptus trees, such that your houses and everything is a lot safer. But wow, it's an amazing story that so much of that land has no ownership, and that aspect too, where even the government is not ruling out not owning it, which obviously absolves them of doing anything as well. So it's a big issue, and it's extremely interesting. Great presentation. Thank you.
All right, Rohan. Fire your presentation.
Right, Daniel. I'm just going to load up the slides here. I just saw Ian taking a sneaky little glass of sip of red there. You know, the etiquette, Ian, is to put it into something like this.
Yeah.
Ian, look at what.
Etiquette is not my go. Yeah.
That's because you're north of the border. Thanks everyone for all those. Just wanted to follow up what everyone else was saying about the great presentations there, and I think it really reminds us again of why we do come together at Commission 7, and really what the reasoning for the creation of FIG was all those years ago, to get discourse and a level of consensus, or at least debate, between cadastral surveyors and surveyors across the different regions of the world. Daniel asked if I could, and he told me a bit late, but so I've done my best here to give a little bit of a wrap up, a bit of a summary of the last 60 or so hours that we've been through as a commission. It's been a bit different, as you've all seen, to a regular commission meeting. And for those whose first chance this is to attend an AGM for Commission 7, I guess that's one of the great side benefits of this approach, and hopefully it inspires you to attend and get more engaged with the commission in the years ahead, and especially when we can go back to more face-to-face meetings. Although it sounds like Ian wants us to all move up and do these at distance, and move up to the North Coast in New South Wales, which is a beautiful part of the world. So let's just kick these slides off. So I did suggest it would be a three-word summary for the entire 11 sessions, and that's not true. But I'm going to do my best here. We are going to do 3-word summaries per session, because we really only have 10 minutes left, and it was really just to try and bring everything together that we've been through in the 11 sessions, which, you know, we're really thankful for all those people who presented and put their time into their presentations, and especially those who came along. There was great diversity in presentations, and a great set of content and topics that were covered. So we started with the theme of building community resilience, and really focusing in on that through this urban and rural interface. And on top of that, we were sort of working this year in the context of COVID-19, and how that can be dealt with by the profession and what has been the impact on the profession. So we started on Tuesday morning in Asia Pacific time, but that was Monday evening for our EU and US or America's counterparts. And that session had 5 speakers: Keith Bell from the World Bank, Eva Maria Unger from Cadastral, along with Case from Cadastral International in the Netherlands, also representing UGIM, Mike Barry, University of Calgary, and Kate Rickersey from Land Equity International. And the 3 words that I've taken out from that particular presentation, or that group of presentations, was critique, consensus, and community. And the critique really came from Keith's great overview at the beginning, where he gave us an excellent, I think, snapshot of the state of play of land administration globally in terms of donors and governments, and the changing, I guess, the changing situation there in terms of how funding is going to look and how the World Bank is structured. And then sort of moving and countering that in a way was the nice presentation on the framework for effective land administration, which was endorsed in August, September this year by the UNGGIM. And if you haven't seen that framework and you're in the land administration game, I really highly encourage you to go and have a look at that. It's freely available online, of course, and it really is a new way of repackaging the concept and the tools relating to land administration. And the last 2 presentations were really about this never forgetting and always remembering to include community, or take the perspective of the community when we're developing our land administration approaches, and how those community-led approaches can often act as a roadmap for doing things at scale. And scale is something that is a theme throughout the whole, was a theme throughout the whole few days. In session 2, we were working alongside with Commission 2, and David Mitchell put together a great group of presenters there. We had Dimo Todorovsky from University of Twente, Chetna from the University of South Pacific, and Kelly Lickley representing RIC. So we've got this real diverse look at how has the COVID-19 situation impacted upon the profession in terms of its educational aspects. And really it was a positive story, because a lot of this move towards online was really well managed, and really well managed in a really short amount of time by both staff and the students. So the feeling out of that was great success and great positivity, but cautioned with that was really an ad hoc solution for a very special situation. And is that really, were the educational outcomes and as good as what they would be in a usual year? So there's caution around that. And there was still discussion around some of the negative side effects of that approach to education, where there's less collegiality, less time for ad hoc networking. Session 3, do you want to take this one, Daniel, or do you want me to keep going?
Keep going, keep going. Great job.
Session 3, I can see Ian having a laugh. Session 3 was the European opening, and we had FIG President, Prof. Rudolf Steiger, along with Daniel and Danilo from GLTN, and Eugene Chigbu, who's at TU Munich, but seems to be heading off on a new adventure down in Namibia. And that session really was broad in coverage, but did focus particularly on the theme of the conference, which was the urban and rural land linkages framework. And Eugene gave us, I guess, an academic or a more theoretical or philosophical view on that. And Danilo told us how that was playing out in terms of GLTN's plans for moving forward with its line of project. So that was really the introspection part, I guess, and the integration part. And I think, Daniel, you gave a really nice presentation on some of the work you've been doing out of the Commission with your different partners, looking at the impacts of COVID-19. And I think that was really quite opening for many of us to see, and maybe it was confirmatory for many of us to see, that the impacts of COVID for our profession, with its high levels of digitalization in some areas, and the move and the shift towards stimulus and funding of government-based work, has actually been resulted in a net positive year for many players in our industry. And I think that, again, just jumping forward to Brent Jones's presentation from Esri this morning, was confirming that also, where I think Esri's perhaps had their greatest year in the books on record. Session 4, I'm going to get Daniel to jump in on that one, because neither of us were in attendance, but apparently it was a very well attended session. And I can't speak good enough French to claim to be able to summarize that one.
Very interesting. Daniel Roić, former chair of this commission, took over and really helped me putting this session together. It was at a time that for Australia was too late at night, but we got a great number of speakers. Rafik Kouri, which is from the Arab surveyors, Jean-Philippe Lastan, the private sector, Claire from the bank, and Daniel, which is an international consultant. The main interesting discussion is that definitely the Francophone world is expanding in terms of land administration projects. It's a priority for the bank. It is happening in many countries. And well, I mean, apart from, I think your session 9, which had over 60 people, I think this was the second more attended session with 45 people. So it's pretty good. It was 100% in French.
Yeah, fantastic. And of course, Daniel Roić, former chair of the commission, leading that for the commission. So great to see him back. Session 5, I think it's, given it's your mother tongue, I think it's best that you summarize this one also too, Daniel.
It was a very interesting discussion. The moderator from the World Bank, Ivan Moreno, decided to run it less presentation, more discussion. She did a fantastic job. Definitely Prindix was highlighted as a way to better track land administration across the world, especially if we care about SDGs. In this session, we didn't hear the 70-30 statistics that cause so many interesting conflicts. OEA, they see it very important as part of the role of defending democracy. The OEA is the Organization of American States. They see it very important land issues, and both in France, the presenter from Colombia and from France, Stefan, gave interesting experience of the projects during COVID. So it was pretty good.
Fantastic. Then we had, I don't know if this was a first of, probably not, but it was great that it was included. Daniel, you had organized for a session completely in Mandarin on, I think it was Wednesday afternoon. And this is also paraphrasing from the rapporteur report. So thanks very much to the moderators and rapporteurs in all sessions, but particularly this one who wrote their report into English for us. And it was really looking at the combination of the different survey methods and practices to create a combining cadastre in China, the unification around that also, and there was also a particular talk on codifying getting a more standard and unified approach to coding features in the cadastre. Unfortunately, this was one of the few technical stuff ups we had for the event where it was accidentally cut off short early, but by all accounts, at least in the rapporteur's report, and we were both there, Daniel, also, this was a well run and well presented session. Is there anything else you would like to say on that one? Because I think it's
no.
Great
I mean, I think it was a cultural experience for both you and me to try to be part of these presentations, and we were I left the session, and unfortunately, due to our inexperience with the technology and learning, when I started I started 15 minutes before the following session. We knocked down this session, so the last presenter couldn't go through, which was a Korean presenting in Mandarin. But we offered to have a recording of the presentation, and hopefully in the video recordings we will add it to this session. So,
okay, I'm just conscious of time because I think we're just ticking on 2 hours now. So session 7 was some of the big hitters in the UN and FAO with Vladimir and Raphael presenting. In that session, it was kind of mixed too, because we also had the executive officer of Alex presenting from Korea, and he was presenting on the innovations going on in the Korean context. And then we also had James Kavanagh coming from the other perspective on, registration or valuation of unregistered lands. Chrissy Potsu also giving us one of the newer international frameworks. So it was a really diverse session in terms of presentation. One thing, I guess, well, the three words we had were disruption, improvement, and value, and perhaps flowing in that order. So disruption, sort of forcing the different agencies, for example, FAO and GLTN, to collaborate more closely and work more closely together through partnerships to essentially create value, but that value term also flicking back to James Kavanagh's presentation. Session 8, I don't know if you want to summarize this one, Daniel?
It was a very productive. This is report of our task force on land PPPs. Peter Kreuzer gave us an update of what was happening in the year 2005 when some principles for land PPPs were produced. Very interesting session. We can see Indonesia moving forward with their project, and it was a great discussion, very well run by Kirsika from Finland. So no, it was a great session.
Yeah, no, it was really nicely run by Kirsika, and just that line, necessity before ideology, was really around, like, the discussion was, why would you push for PPPs? Well, the point was made very strongly. It's not about an ideology or a political ideology or a political point. It's really about necessity, and that might be lack of funding, that might be lack of skills capacity within government, and that's why you would look towards this PPPs model. Session 9 was a really great session. We had really high attendance in this one. I think it was up around 60 or so. We had a really nice panel headed by Prof. Crit Lemon, who's here joining us again in this session, alongside Eftichia Kalagiani. And they were talking about all the developments around LADM linked to OGC. So that was great to get that update. We also had Frank Pitchell and Amy Kuchena presenting from Cadastra, and Paula giving us an update on the Commission and what they're working on with FFPLA, and Simon Ulven from Meridia. And I think what was really nice about this session is that a lot of the initiatives that I guess were started 10, 15 years ago, like LADM, but also these Map My Rights and crowdsourcing type initiatives that Cadastra and Meridia really build off of, now sort of gone to a higher level. And I think the whole feeling of that session is that the activities and the initiatives and the tools are really at that point where we're ready to scale. And is it worth asking Paula to jump on a little bit more? You want to save those commissioned summaries till the end, Daniel? So
yes, no, Paula, go ahead, please.
Yep. Okay. Good point indeed, Rowan. Good to jump in here on the Commission 7.2 working group work. We are indeed ready to scale. In 2014 and 16, the foundation was laid for fit for purpose land administration, with the concept of how we can contribute to more cost-effective and time-efficient and scalable and participatory land administration solutions. And we've seen that implemented on the ground in different contexts, in different regions, different settings. And we really can scale up with these experiences. And that's what the working group is aiming for, to really collecting these experiences, to document them and to share with them, with the FIG community, to see what can be done and take these lessons on board. So build up on this foundation that's already there with practical examples. So that's our aim, and we will reach out to the community for interviews on the fit for purpose administration approaches. Like I asked Virgínia just now, sharing examples of Portugal. So that's it from the 7.2.
Fantastic. That was a really fun session, that one. Then I don't know whether it was this morning or yesterday, but the session 10 was really looking, I guess, at the sort of leading edge technologies and the leading edge developments. And that's why there was so much university representation and also private sector representation. In this session, we had Prof. Peter van Oostrum giving us a focus on on LADM again, but this time how it's dealing with 3D aspects in the new LADM2 iteration that's undergoing development at the moment. Had Miller Cueva looking at developments coming out of University of Twente around automatic feature extraction and uses of AI and the success rates in around that, particularly of utility in developing contexts. Brent Jones gave us all of the latest trends and new developments for Esri, as he always kindly does, and Abbas Rajapafard, Prof. Abbas Rajapafard out of University of Melbourne, gave us the overview of particularly focused, well, it was a very dense presentation, but really focused on the digital twinning pilots and developments that Melbourne Uni is working along with its government and industry partners. Oh, and I've gone the wrong way there. So I think that was quite an inspirational session. So, and it also showed that a lot of the innovations that are going on between and within the different universities really do funnel back to organizations like Esri. So we saw a bit of software for dynamic adjustment of survey networks developed in the 90s out of University of Melbourne, now being implemented at scale in the new parcel fabric of Esri, for example. And that brings us to session 11, Daniel, and we've just had a round the world trip from Asia through Europe. And I don't think we went down to Africa or across to the States. We did have John Holwell, of course, give us a nice introduction over there though. So that pretty much wraps us up, Daniel, and I'm going to throw to you for the last little bit here then. So thank you all for your participation and all your inputs.
Thank you. I think you had a final slide. Would you still want to present it?
Oh, yeah, well, I can if you want, or you can if you want. The major takeaway, so summing that all together and remembering that all the presentations and the content are going to be made available and the recordings too, which will be something a bit different. But the major takeaways are that COVID has obviously impacted our work in many ways, as shown throughout the 3 days, but not always in such a negative way as it has perhaps on our social circumstances. Indeed, it's had some positive side effects. And I think the pandemic has showed out of many of those presentations that it provides us an opportunity to reset and rethink the way we do our work as surveyors and cadasters in particular. And I think this session or program put together by you, Daniel, has shown us that our work in the commission can actually continue. There's no need to pause it for a number of years while we wait for this to pass. We can continue to work at this hybrid way or even at distance fully. So looking ahead, oh, seems like no, there we go. Looking ahead, I think I'll throw to you here though, Daniel, because these are your chances to do some sales pitching for 2021.
Yes, perfect. I'll do that
maybe
in
Paul
a second. I'll do that in a second.
2021.
Of course. Before we do that, let's go to announcements. We are about to finish. Put your photos in gallery so you can see everyone. Turn on your camera. We're about to say bye to everyone. Say good moment. John Ho, go ahead. What news you have us from the foundation?
I'd like to just show a slide about an announcement that we'd like to make that just finalized yesterday, if I may.
Please.
You see my screen?
No yet. Try again, please.
That will work better. Yeah. It's building the anticipation nicely.
Yes, definitely. While John finds his slides, Paula, any news for the working week? We heard from the president. He's now a little bit more open to a hybrid. How do you feel about it?
Oh, Mike.
Well, the announcement is that we go virtual. We go for whatever is possible at the moment and build up from there. And at the moment, due to the pandemic measurements, it's not possible to have a face-to-face meeting at this moment. Whenever it's possible, we definitely go for that, but we will build up the virtual event. That will take place from 21st to 25th of June. We are developing the framework for a virtual event, and that might look different from a regular working week. And we take on board really the experiences of this week as well, where you accommodated the different time zones, the different languages. So I think what you did here was really a good example. And that's also where I would like to use this opportunity to give a huge shout out to you, Daniel, for having the courage and embracing the opportunity of going virtually, of going online, and to have the courage to set this meeting up. I think it has been a great success. You've achieved a lot, and together with Rowan, you've prepared an excellent program supported by all the rapporteurs and chairs. So yeah, really impressive, and thank you for facilitating this for the FIG Commission 7 community. And we will definitely learn from that and take your lessons learned and good experiences to the FIG 2021 working week. But really thank you, and my hat off for organizing this.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your words, Paula. It's been a teamwork, and it's been fun, complex, and we learn a lot, and happy to transfer that. John, go over to you.
Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. I'd like to thank everyone again for the generous donation of the registration fees to the FIG Foundation. And like I mentioned, I wanted you to make an announcement. This was just finalized yesterday. Some of you may know and are familiar with the International Institution for the History of Surveying and Measurement. Jean de Grave and Jim Smith have been around for a long time. They've been spending 35 years of research and have put together 7 volumes, almost 3,000 pages, which is now going, the foundation has agreed to publish it. This is about the history of geodesy, basically. It's 5 volumes titled Notes on the History of Determining the Size and Shape of the Earth using Meridian Arcs. That covers 2,760 years of history, and 2 volumes titled The Meridian Arcs in East and Southern Africa, with emphasis on the arc of the 30th meridian and the connection between the Struve geodetic arc and the arc of the 30th meridian. So that basically covers from the tip of Africa all the way up through Europe, Russia, and so on. And we've been working and talking with John and Jim for the past 5 years on this, and I'm happy to state that this will now be published, and it's being sponsored by Trimble. So it's quite an endeavor, and it's amazing. They've sent me all the information, and so it's something I think some of you may be actually interested in seeing.
Good on Trimble for supporting that. Fantastic. Thank you for your announcement. Is there any other comments, questions? What did you think about the online? Did you enjoy it? We already heard from Paula. Any other comments before I close the meeting? This is a great opportunity to give us your final comments, thoughts, mention something. All right, all at the same time. Hopefully everyone with the camera turn on your microphones, and let's say bye and clap. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the meeting. Thank you for being part and supporting. Thank you, Rohan. Very fun to work with you. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
All right, close it in 3, 2, 1.